When I became the chief, I took a fresh look at how we used our resources, and I immediately wanted to make our department more efficient and more effective. We reassigned officers from desk duty to patrol. To date, we've put nearly 30 commissioned officers back on the street. We created a community policing team by partnering quality of life officers with our crime prevention unit. Now, on any given day, we have 12 officers available for community policing initiatives anywhere in the city. We put new accountability measures in place at the district level. Now we have trip sheets who show who's wearing body cameras and who's not, when they're using them and when they're not using them. We commission an outside expert to review current resources and make recommendations on how we can use them effectively, and that work is ongoing. Today, we take another step forward by implementing a smart policing strategy that will significantly reduce wasted time and allow our officers to focus on responding to actual emergencies. Right now, when a burglar alarm is activated and police are automatically notified, we are responding to the locations with lights and sirens. In every case, or nearly every case, the burglar alarm we're responding to is a false alarm. In fact, right now, 1 in 3 of all of our emergency responses is a false alarm. To put it another way, last year, burglar alarms made up 11% of the NOPD's total call for service time. On average, 98.8% of every one of those reported burglar alarms was a false alarm. That means we're responding to an average of 130 false alarms a day. These calls bog us down, waste our resources, and waste your money. On an average, we spend 12,000 man-hours every year responding to false alarms, and that comes to an annual cost of about $400,000 to taxpayers. With the support of our city council members, with the support of all 3 of our police unions, we are proposing an ordinance that will bring our burglar alarm policies in line with national best practices and focus enforcement on those who are most responsible for the false alarms. Under the proposed ordinance, the alarm system users will face a progressive fine that will reset every calendar year. The first false alarm will be a warning. The second false alarm will be a $75 fine. The third false alarm will be a $150 fine. NOPD will stop responding to alarm system activations after the third alarm. Alarm users will be able to appeal the false alarm fines and notices of non-response. In addition, alarm monitoring companies will be required to make at least 2 calls to an alarm system user to verify an alarm before requesting police dispatch. Monitoring companies that do not adhere to these policies will also face fines. As part of the ordinance, NOPD will have explicit authority to hire a contractor to administer the false alarm program. It's important to note that the ordinance will not in any way impact police response to actively triggered alarms, such as panic alarms or hold-up alarms, or active information where we know someone is physically breaking into a home or business. Policing is changing, and with the new technology and innovation, we have an opportunity to build an NOPD that's a 21st century police department. New Orleans is not alone in our efforts to reduce false alarms. We've studied various models from several cities around the country that have seen tremendous results in this area. Our model is closely based off successful models employed in Seattle and Los Angeles, among other cities. And enhanced call verification, which is the main pillars of our proposed policy, has been adopted as a statewide standard in Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. So I'm fully committed to continuing to identify ways to work smarter and more efficient, more effective, so we can provide the best police services available to our residents and our visitors. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your support. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Chief. Putting it simply, this ordinance is going to put more police back on the street. It's simply that. I've heard from constituents day in and day out that are basically saying they want to see police on the street engaging in community policing. And false alarms, frankly, just take them out of the game unnecessarily. When I was playing football at Tulane, Coach Bowden took basically the same team of players and went undefeated from a season where we lost a bunch of games by simply changing the strategy. And we don't allow people to call 911, make false 911 calls, and we can't allow faulty alarm systems to do the exact same thing. So I thank the Chief and I thank Council President Head, who started working on this before this term. and has done a lot of research to make sure that we're doing it in a way that only promotes public safety. And we won't have our police officers, especially at a time when we don't have as many as we should, wasting their time on non-incidences of crime because of false alarms. Thank you. Council Vice President.
Well, I just want to say I am so glad to have an action-oriented police chief. This would not have happened had we not have if we didn't have a chief who sees a problem and makes sure that that problem gets resolved. The Inspector General did a great report to let us know where we have some wasted manpower, wasted man hours. But that report alone is worth almost nothing without action steps. Because of the chief and his directive to make sure that more men and women that are on the NOPD are out patrolling, doing active patrols and responding to actual calls for emergency service, this would never have happened. I want to thank the administration for being incredible partners in this, particularly Jonathan Wisby, who is the behind-the-scenes champion of so many police reform efforts, and Carla Gendusa, who did a ton of research with my office for making this happen. This will, as has been said, result in an immediate reduction in false alarms, but the real result is that it will result in an immediate increase in the available patrol officers who can respond to real calls for service. So thank you again to all of the people who made this happen. It's so wonderful to work with such a smart chief, administration, and an incredibly forward-thinking council that can make things like this actually happen. They go from the thought perspective, the analysis from the IG's office, into the action mode in a faster order than has ever happened before in my tenure on the City Council.
Good morning. So yes, this is exciting, and I do want to say that Chief Harrison is identifying the issues that need to be resolved in order to make a more effective and a more available police force for us, and we're very excited about that. Councilmember Head has been working on this issue, I know, since before a lot of our times here, and has finally gotten the partners needed to make this thing work. You know, those of us who have alarms, we know this is a call to order here. It's a call to do what needs to be done. Get that motion detector fixed so that it doesn't go off when the dog jumps on the couch, right? These are the kind of things that the homeowner maybe lets go a little bit because there's no penalty, because there's no consequence to not having the alarm set correctly. Saw that coming. So this ordinance strikes a balance between the legitimate public safety service provided by alarm companies and the need for our police to be out on the streets doing their job instead of chasing false alarms. So again, it's a call to everyone with an alarm to get that alarm serviced, to have it working properly, and to you know, teach your kids more correctly how to use them. And I think we'll wind up having a reduction in alarms all around. And then with the two-call alarm system that we have in this ordinance, we will have our police going out when they should be going out and not when they're wasting their time. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the chief, thank Councilmember Head, my colleagues, thank them for their creativity. I know when Chief Harrison came on the force, we sat in my office and we talked about response time. Whether there's a home invasion, a burglary, a robbery, all our citizens want to know is when the men and women in blue is going to get to their door. And that's what's important. And I just applaud the chief for his creativity and leadership, bringing forth this ordinance in conjunction with Councilmember Head and the rest of the partners, the administration. It's about teamwork, and I'm glad to be part of a progressive, forward-thinking council, as Councilmember Head said, so we could reduce the response time of citizens getting calls for service. It's important that all these pieces work together. The Justice Department agreed to provide us with a COPS grant on last year. So all this helps, and I look forward to continuing to support our police department. So thank you.